A prayer for mercy, the bishop's plea at the National Cathedral. The air was thick with anticipation and the weight of history as dignitaries and citizens alike gathered at the National Cathedral. It was January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day, and the traditional interfaith prayer service was about to commence. This solemn occasion, meant to offer blessings and guidance to the incoming president, took an unexpected turn. The Right Reverend Mariann Edgar Budde, Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Washington, stood at the pulpit. Her words, though measured and calm, carried a powerful message of compassion and a plea for mercy. Bishop Budde's sermon went beyond the usual platitudes. She spoke directly to the anxieties and fears gripping the nation. Her words resonated with a deep concern for the most vulnerable among us. The bishop called for unity and understanding. She reminded those present and the nation watching that America's strength lies in its diversity and its willingness to embrace those seeking refuge and a better life. The bishop's message was not a condemnation of the new administration. It was not a partisan attack. Instead, it was a heartfelt plea for compassion and a reminder of the moral obligations of leadership. The significance of her message, delivered on this momentous day, was undeniable. It served as a powerful counterpoint to the divisive rhetoric that had characterized the preceding election campaign.
Bishop Budde's sermon resonated deeply with specific communities across the nation. Her words offered solace and a sense of recognition to those who felt increasingly marginalized and threatened. Among those groups were immigrants, who had been demonized and targeted throughout the election cycle.
The bishop's call for mercy and her reminder of America's history as a haven for those fleeing persecution provided a glimmer of hope in a time of uncertainty. The LGBTQ+ community also found solace in the bishop's message. During the campaign, there had been promises to roll back hard-won rights and protections for LGBTQ+ individuals.
The fear was palpable, particularly among young people who had only known a time of increasing acceptance and equality. The bishop's words offered a message of inclusion and affirmed the dignity of all people, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity.
Transcended political affiliations. It spoke to the core values of compassion and empathy that many Americans hold dear. Her message served as a reminder that leadership requires more than just strength and decisiveness. It demands empathy, a willingness to listen to the voices of the marginalized, and a commitment to justice for all.
While Bishop Budde spoke, cameras captured President Trump's reactions. His demeanor was visibly uncomfortable. He fidgeted in his seat, his expression shifting between boredom and annoyance. The president, known for his short attention span and aversion to criticism, seemed visibly irritated by the bishop's message of inclusivity and her implicit rebuke of his divisive campaign rhetoric. Trump's true feelings became evident later that evening. He took to his preferred platform, Twitter, to express his displeasure. In a series of tweets, he lashed out at the bishop, accusing her of delivering a politically motivated sermon and questioning her faith. The president's tweets were characteristically aggressive, devoid of the grace and diplomacy expected of the nation's leader. The president's outburst shocked many, but surprised few. His history of lashing out at critics, real or perceived, was well documented. What made this instance particularly jarring was the setting and the solemnity of the occasion. Trump's decision to attack a religious leader on the very day of his inauguration was unprecedented and widely condemned as unpresidential and disrespectful.
Section 4. The Pulpit and Politics, Religious Leaders in the Realm of Political Discourse. The intersection of religion and politics is a complex and often contentious issue in American society. Historically, religious leaders have played a significant role in shaping public discourse and advocating for social justice. From the abolitionist movement to the civil rights era, religious figures have often been at the forefront of movements for social change, challenging the status quo and speaking truth to power. The role of religious leaders in the political sphere, however, is not without its critics. Some argue that the pulpit should be a place of spiritual guidance and solace, separate from the partisan battles of the secular world. They contend that when religious leaders wade into politics, they risk alienating members of their congregations who hold differing political views. Despite these criticisms, many religious leaders believe that their faith compels them to speak out against injustice and advocate for the marginalized. They argue that their moral authority stems not from their political affiliations, but from their commitment to the teachings of their faith traditions, which emphasize compassion, justice, and the inherent dignity of all human beings.
Section 5. Past Parallels. Comparing Trump's response to presidential predecessors. President Trump's reaction to Bishop Budde's sermon was a stark departure from the conduct of his predecessors. Past presidents, regardless of their personal religious beliefs or political affiliations, generally treated religious leaders with respect, even when they disagreed with their views. President Barack Obama, for example, faced criticism from some religious leaders for his stance on same-sex marriage. However, he consistently engaged in respectful dialogue with those who held differing viewpoints, recognizing the importance of religious freedom and the role of faith in American society. Similarly, President George W. Bush, a devout Methodist, often met with religious leaders from various denominations, seeking their counsel on a wide range of issues. While he sometimes faced criticism for his close ties to the evangelical community, Bush generally maintained a respectful and cordial relationship with religious figures. President Trump's confrontational approach towards Bishop Budde set a new tone for the relationship between the White House and religious leaders. His willingness to publicly attack a religious figure for expressing views that challenged his own agenda signaled a departure from the norms of presidential decorum and raised concerns about his respect for religious freedom.